welcome back to the channel. Today I am working on this old Ehrlich. I got it at an estate. So far I've done a light sanding on the bowl in the shank. I'm trying not to take well, obviously you have to be careful because you don't want to take away the stampings. The top of the bowl was super charred, and as you can see, there's still some remnant here. That's inaccurate lighting of the bowl, burning the wood out. I actually kind of topped off the bowl here a little bit. Just because it was so charred and it was really uneven. So I basically took off, I don't know, a millimeter or so, and then kind of rounded the edges on the outside and on the inside to make it a little bit more kind of appealing. For the stem, I did a soak in OxyClean. Actually, I did a couple soaks. I soaked it once and then did a rough sanding on it and then did another oxy bath, which has helped it out a lot. I'm going to do a rough kind of I'm going to take my machine here and go at it with a little bit of tripoli, or maybe a lot of tripoli, and see if I can make my sanding a little bit less, kind of help the machine do most of it. There's a little bit of remnant here of oxidation still, and it'll give me a little bit better idea of the shape. There's a few marks up here. I'm trying to decide if I want to take my files to it or not. That'll give me a lot more work to do, so we'll see here. So I'm going to take, go at it with a little bit of tripoli. I always, when you're doing the stem, you always want to sand here at this part with it attached here, because I know when I was first starting out, I would sand just the stem and I would take off just enough of the stem that it would not have a nice, clear, even transition from the stem to the shank, because you're taking off material. So you always want to sand, and when you're cleaning, you always want to keep it attached to the pipe itself so you don't take too much off of that. All right, so I'm going to grab my tripoli here. I'm going to adjust my camera just a bit so you can see more of the wheel. There we go. Taking this up. And let's see. I have a variable speed buffer here, so I am going to do probably 1500 RPMs to see if I can kind of need extra power. I'm going to load a lot of tripoli in here, but I am kind of wanting to work some of that oxidation out of it. You just do want to be careful though, because with a buffer like this and the power and the speed, you can take more material off than you want. I've taken logos off before accidentally, or pieces of like stamps. I've just wiped it right off of the pipe, so you do have to be careful. When you're at this high of a speed, you definitely want to keep a double hold onto the pipe, because it will fly on you. had that happen too. So this has kind of given me a good idea, a better idea of the shape. Sometimes you'll work on a stem, you'll sand it and sand it and sand it, and then you finally, you think it's nice and smooth, and then you'll get to the polishing stage with the tripoli and the white diamond, and then you'll realize that there's more of an indentation in the stem than you originally thought, and you didn't quite get it all, and it reflects light. So I don't know if you can see it there on the camera, but there's a little tooth mark here, and there's a tooth mark, fairly large tooth mark here and here. So I think I'm gonna have to I think that might be too deep for just sandpaper. And if I did use sandpaper, it would probably take a very long time, because I've actually already sanded this a little bit. And I thought I had done a better job of getting those marks out. But once you polish it, it makes it reflect a little bit more light. So it kind of, sorry, I got the hiccups. It points out some kind of imperfections that you still need to work on. So I am going to, take out my files and see if we can make quick work of that. And then we'll have to go through bunch of different, there's a mark here on the side too, so you have to be careful with these, because you can take too much material off if you're not careful. And this is, using my files is kind of a last resort, because it is really rough, and the process of taking out all of the file marks is quite labor intensive. So I don't do this lightly, and usually I'll look for pipes that don't have a lot of damage, at least deep punctures on the stem, because they are such a pain to fix. But I'll just start going at it here. You obviously don't want to just file the spot where the mark is, because then you'll just have a crater. So you basically have to file the entire part of the stem that has issues, so you can make it even and look like it never was there in the first place. You don't want to create more damage. I think I'm going to take the stem off of the bowl here. I'm using kind of the, I don't know, half moon kind of file. I find that it kind of works. It's the easiest to take off enough material without overdoing it. It's not flat. Flat ones, when you're when you got flat on flat, flat is fine. But when you don't have a flat thing you're filing, and I find it a little bit more difficult. So I'm just kind of going back and forth, not staying in one spot. I'm just kind of focusing on the problem area, which is like right there, but I'm not staying in that spot because I want it to be even. Sometimes it's hard when you're filing to see if you've got it, if you fixed it, because it's so rough that it does throw a lot of light. So you're looking for the light variances. Still there a little bit, so we'll keep going. But the files are so rough that they do cascade a lot of light in all directions, so it's kind of hard to tell if you fixed it or not. You think you fixed it, and then you sand it all down, and you go to your polishing stage, and guess what? It's still there. And that is hard to take when you've gone through all of the sanding processes, and you gotta start all over. I think we're almost there. Let's see if I can bring the camera a little bit closer. Get a little bit. Sorry about the... That's a little better. Okay, you can kind of see there. I think that's about... I think that should be good. Now we've got one mark here on the other side, and then we have this area on the side. I kind of wonder, I might be able to get that with sandpaper, but it is pretty deep. So same process here. Got to remember where that spot, that trouble spot is. And then we've basically got to work the whole end of the stem, otherwise it's going to be it's going to be uneven. You'll be doing more damage overall than what you started out with. So this is probably my least favorite part of cleaning estate pipes and restoring estate pipes. These stems are a pain because a lot of people don't care about the stems and they just chew on them and bite them. They don't think about me restoring them. I know when I smoke, I'm super deliberate in my lack of biting, clenching with my teeth. I even recently just bought some stem, I don't even know what they're called, little pieces of rubber that you slip over the end of your stem so you can bite down without doing any damage to your stem. Those have been really nice. I've restored some family heirloom pipes that my dad had back in the 60s, and so I finally restored those, and I didn't want to have to go through that painstaking process of taking bite marks out of them again. So those rubber pieces are actually really nice. It's hard to see, but I think maybe a little bit more. Almost there, I think. Do it. That looks pretty good there. Now let's see on the side. I've got to be real careful. I don't want to take too much. I don't want to affect the slope or the angle of the side of the stem here. So I'm trying to not stay in one spot. I think that should be good. All right. So I'm going to put this away. First, I'm going to start with some rough sandpaper. This is, I think, 125 grit or 120 grit. This will be kind of my first go at it. Like I said, you kind of it's a process, and I don't know if you guys understand the sanding process of it is meant to be a process, sanding. So you start rough and you vary in small increments, increase the grit. So you're gradually making the marks and the holes that you're making with this sandpaper. When you go up just a little bit, you just make those holes a little bit smaller. And then you go even finer, and it's a step-by-step process. I'll probably go through, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels of sandpaper, from 400 to, well, this is 120, but I don't even really include this, from 400 to 3,000 in paper. And then I've got these sanding blocks, and I can't even remember what grit these are, but this is almost completely smooth here. So I'll do those as well. Not to mention the tripoli white diamond. So lots and lots of sanding. So I'm doing dry here at first, and then I'll probably do a whole thing of dry, and then I'll go back and do a segment of wet sanding. So you just have to, so I've made a mess of the stem here with the 120. So you've got to be real careful. As you sand further and get finer and finer, you have to make sure that you're getting every spot on the stem, because you could be doing more damage as you're sanding, and you want to make sure that you're sanding out the rest of that. So here's 400. And I'm basically going to go over the entire stem here. I think I'll probably, let's see. At some point here I'm going to attach the bowl back on and tape off the wood part. The wood as much as possible when I'm sanding. So I just put a little bit over the lip, and then I just push it down. It's especially important to protect the wood when you're doing wet sanding. I like to cover up the wood so it doesn't get sogged out. You have to do it over and over again because the tape does get wet and tear pretty easily. So that way I can sand all the way up to here without the tendency when you're sanding without the stem. Here I've got this pipe here. So if you're standing all along, you're not going, the tendency, you're sanding down a slope. And so if you have it off and you're sanding, you have a tendency to go over the edge, and you're taking off more off the edge, and making kind of a slope this way, down that way. And so then you're disrupting this edge right here. So then it will be, when you put it back on the pipe, it will be uneven. So you don't, that's why when I'm sanding, you don't want to go off that ledge and create a hillside, if that makes sense. So this is 400 grit, and I'm basically going to go over the entire stem now. Make sure I've got don't leave any marks. Pay special attention to the areas down here where we use the files. That'll be extra rough. Basically want to keep it very even. That makes sense. noticed a few marks on the lip here at the end, so I've already polished this to a certain extent, but since I made marks on it with the rough sandpaper, I've got to go through the whole process on the entire stem. So I'll do this side too. If you have any questions as I go through this, please feel free to put it down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer any questions or go over different processes as you have questions about. This is definitely the part of restoration process that is the most work. But when you have a pipe that was in really bad condition and at the end it's perfect again, and that is the goal ultimately, to have perfect, or at least as close to perfect as you can get it, pipe in the end that has kind of the history and some stories to tell. That's kind of why I do what I do here. I love, it's easy to just go buy a new pipe, but the old adage is they don't make things like they used to, do they? So, just gonna do, just having a hard time getting to the very edge of this one for some reason, so I'm gonna be real careful. And just pulled that out from the bowl just a little bit. I'll do a little inspection here. Maybe I had that stem upside down. Maybe that was my problem. Seems like a better fit that way. Okay. It's hard to see, but I think I still have some kind of scratches up here from the rough grit sandpaper, so I'm gonna get a new sheet of 400 grit, and we'll go with that again. Just organized my sandpapers the other day. I get to be a mess. So here's another sheet of 400. If you're doing this at home and you buy a big thing of sandpaper, see how they mark it with the grit here in the middle, but I usually tear off just a little inch worth of sandpaper at a time. But sometimes you forget what grit it was, especially on the finer ones. So I go and I basically write the grit throughout the piece, so when I cut off a slice, I still know the grit there, so I don't lose that. That just helps me, because sometimes I lose track of the different sandpaper grits. So I just fold it into thirds. I like dealing with small pieces of sandpaper like that. There's some marks up here, especially. I'm gonna try to focus on. So like I said before, you're incrementally making, when you're sanding, you're making smaller and smaller grooves as you increase the grit of your sandpaper. So you can't just start with 3000 grit. You've got to do an incrementally smaller or larger and larger grit. So this is 400, like I said, and we'll go to 600, and then to 1000, and to 1200, then 1500, 2000. I believe I have 2500 is next, and then 3000. So even though most of the filing was done up here, I'm not ignoring this down here, because everything's got to be even. All right, so I think that's pretty good. Like I said, this is going to be the first kind of stage. 600 too. I'm going to do, so I'm going to go through 400, 600, 1000, 1200, 1500, 2000, 2500, and 3000 on the stem here, and then we'll kind of assess where we're at with it. And the finer you get, the more polished it looks, so you can kind of assess your sanding job and how good it looks. And then I'll probably go and use these sanding blocks, and I'll do some wet sanding, and that'll help bring out any more oxidation in the stem as well. And then we'll assess again. So yeah, that's the plan so far. So yeah, let's keep going. So here's my 600. So we're going through the same process. 1,000, I think I did. 1,500. So 1,500 was the last one I did. I'm gonna start doing some wet sanding here. I'm just gonna go over all of these. Start with the roughest, and then finish with the finest. So these are great because they obviously they're easy to hold onto. They're easy to sand. They hold a little bit of water, so it's easy to keep it moist. And like I said, this will help get rid of any of that, any excess oxidation. As we're going through this different steps. Make sure you're gonna get the lip here. I'm actually getting close to needing to replace these. They're getting a little worn down and a little rough and creased in areas, but they still do the job for the most part. They've lasted me a while. Make sure you get all the different spots. I'll have to look up what exactly grit these are. I know you can buy different assortments, starting from really fine and ending super fine, or rough to fine. I think these are rough to fine. I think the brown one is generally, I think, around 400-600 grit. I think the finest on this set is, I want to say it's almost 4,000. So you can see when you do wet, here it's easy for the tape to break. So gotta keep an eye on that and replace it once it does. I'll do that here in a second. Just give that a little rinse off, squeeze. Sure it's dry before I put another layer of tape on. So you can see I kind of put it around just so it sticks out over the shank, so you can see there. And I just fold it in. So it kind of covers the end of the shank there. And that way I get a nice tight fit with the that. Okay. Now we're ready to go. I think that was backwards. There we go. Just want to make sure it's on straight. It's pretty good. Alright, so the next color. And it looks like that most of the oxidation is gone. I'm not getting a whole lot as I sand here. So that's a good sign. Some of the stems that I've had to work on are just absolutely disgusting and just have sat for years and years and years and never been cleaned or worked on. Just decades worth of oxidation. One more round here. That's good. And the next one. Got this one and 5 more, so 6 including this one. This will go pretty fast. And then we can assess how well we've done so far and getting those marks out. Hopefully we've done a good job. If they're indistinguishable or very minor, I might just leave it. If we do find something that's not done, you kind of have to. The goal is to have something like as new, but the reality is, if a bite mark is too extreme, you don't want to take too much material off. This is good mindless work. Sometimes when I'm not doing videos, I'll listen to music or podcasts or whatever. Kids are getting hungry. So I'm gonna keep going here. I'm gonna do a kind of a little tripoli, maybe even a little white diamond on here, on the bowl specifically, just to see. I'm gonna try to assess whether I want to do any more to the bowl as far as color goes. I like this color, but I think giving it a layer of maybe a mahogany or even a yellow light brown might look nice, but I can already tell the grain is really starting to pop once it gets a little tripoli polish on there. So I may just leave it. You always, when you're doing this, you always want to, I like to keep, I don't like to lead with the rim edge because that tends to get caught. I always want to go from the bowl side and go up, rotate up, get the grain nicely. When it's possible, always shine with the direction of the grain, help it pop a little bit. As you can see, I'm trying to get the light just right. It looks really nice, actually. Now I did top this. The top of the rim is a little bit lighter than the rest. So I think I might try to give it a little bit of color on the top just to match down here a little bit. But I think that might be, and then I'll try, hopefully I can match the rest of this, and if not, I might just have to do a layer on the entire thing just to help maintain consistency. I really like this pipe a lot. It's got some really nice burl here. It's got really nice grain through here. So this is going to be a really nice pipe. If I didn't have so many pipes already in my personal collection, I'd probably hold on to this one. But we'll see. So before I do put a little bit of stain on this, I'll probably do a light cleaning of alcohol. I usually use Everclear, food grade grain alcohol, whenever I'm cleaning. That'll help take off the tripoli, and then I'll probably heat the pipe up with my heat gun, and that'll help open the pores of the pipe a little bit, so the stain will take a little bit easier. So that's the plan. That'll be the next step. So stay tuned, okay? Okay. So we are going to do a little color job on this pipe. I am thinking maybe a little yellow. Maybe a little medium brown. I think that's kind of where my head's at right now. Let's see if we can't match the color here. So it's mostly going to be medium brown, I think. I'm going to use, I have these little mini syringes I really like. So a little bit of this goes a long way. So there I've got my medium brown. I'm going to add just a touch of yellow. I basically have brown, yellow, red, black, mahogany, I think that's all the colors that I have. But with those colors, I can make, quite honestly, I can make most everything that I want to make, especially in pipe colors. I mean, I'm not going to do a pipe hot pink or turquoise. Though maybe there's a market for that, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you want a turquoise or hot pink pipe. I'm going to add a little bit of reducer. It's just to thin stuff out a little bit. Just so it's not that strong. Okay. All right. Cover everything back up. You don't want want to spill that all over your workbench. Got a little wood stick here. I think that's pretty close. I think that might be pretty good. Okay, so here's what I like to do. I like to grab my heat gun. Just gonna heat up the wood a little bit. That helps open the pores of the wood. I'm actually gonna take the stem off. Forgot about that. Let's see if I can get. Even that's pretty good. All right, I'm gonna give it a little bit more heat. But before I do that, I actually forgot that I never cleaned it with everything. So I'm just gonna do a light. Doesn't need much. Just a tiny little light cleaning. Just a little white. That'll get all of that tripoli off. I'm actually getting. I had some yellow dye on my fingers, so alcohol is cleaning my fingers for me. So all of that color is mostly from my fingers and not from the pipe. Just so you know. Should have worn gloves. You can always tell when it's clean because it's got a very dull look to it. You can tell it's very dull. Put away my Everclear. Heat it up a little bit more. Apologies for the noise. It's nice and warm. And it is absorbing this stain pretty well because it is warm. You can always tell when you It's not really changing the color very much, as you can see here. I don't know if you can tell on the video, but it's basically just kind of evening out the color a little bit. Once over and make sure not missing any spots. Medium brown is actually a really nice color in and of itself. But once you add just a little bit of yellow to it, it really makes it extra special. I don't know where I learned this trick, but just kind of flaming it a little bit. Just to help burn off any excess alcohol. Helps it dry faster. So. Gonna hit that end. No, I didn't want much. Actually, I forgot to load the camera. Let me bring you in a little bit closer here. That's better, eh? So, there we have it. It's going to be nice. All right, here we go. So, got my pipe. I just did a quick layer of stain on there because the top was just a little bit lighter than the rest of the pipe because I topped it because it was so charred out when I got it. So we're gonna buff it, and then it should be ready to go. Sometimes if you, especially a freshly stained pipe, you can, if you go too hard on the buffing wheel, you can basically take all of the color that you put on off. So just gonna be nice and gentle with this, not gonna press too hard. I don't want to take off all the color that I just put on. Like I said, this is Tripoli, and I'm at 1200 RPMs right now, so nothing too fast. Just nice and kind of medium, slow to medium speed here. I can go all the way up to 3600 RPMs, but I don't think I've ever used it at that speed. I think that's probably more for metal work and that kind of thing. So. Just working the grain a little bit. Go with the grain, you get a nice, kind of bring out that contrast in the grain a little bit. That's what I'm looking for. Looking pretty good. I'm gonna lift the stem a little bit more. Now, when you get into staining your pipes, you'll notice that it's hard because there are certain parts of the grain that take more stain color. So to get an even color, sometimes you've got to stain certain sections a little bit darker, or put more coats on, or be satisfied with a slightly gradient of color. For instance, you can kind of see here in this light, it's pretty light right here, pretty light right here, and then it's dark on the sides, which makes sense. It's lighter here, here. So I might hit that with another layer of stain, just so I can kind of even that out a little bit and see if that works a little bit. I'll be right back. Alright, so I added a little bit more stain. I don't know if it really is going to make that much of a difference. I think it looks good no matter what. So we're just going to go with it. Let me put the stem back on here. And we are going to do a little white dye. diamond next. Find my white diamond. Here we go. Alright, so white diamond. You want to make sure that between your buffing wheels, you really get that excess polish off. White diamond, I usually like to do a little bit higher speed. I think I usually do 1800. The white diamond can get kind of messy, can accumulate inside your bowl. You're not too careful. So I usually just stick a little paper towel or something inside the bowl just to keep the white diamond from going inside the pipe. It does take away my finger grip though, so you gotta be careful not to. You gotta hold on to the pipe. Make sure it doesn't go flying, especially at 1800 RPMs. If the pipe goes flying, you're definitely gonna get a ding or two as it's thrown against something, whatever it hits in your shop. I'm speaking from experience, so you gotta be careful. Hopefully I don't show you in person right now. Just trying to keep a tight grip. At least I try to keep a tight grip in one hand and then use the other hand for more of guiding. Just gotta do a once over and make sure it's looking okay. It's looking pretty good. I'll work the screen just a little bit more. Just bring out a little bit more contrast. Yeah, this is gonna be a really nice pipe. I like the shape. Some old Ehrlich. Okay, so I'm doing a good wipe down. Alright, now it's time for the wax. I have been using carnauba. I know that there's other types of wax on the market, but I just kind of like carnauba. The carnauba gives it a nice shine, but it also helps protect, especially the stem, from oxidation, which is nice to have. It's really hard wax. See, it's nice and shiny. I have just a plain cotton. Let's see if I can adjust my. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. Wife came home with some groceries, so helped her unload and put away. Alright, so I have this cotton meal over here that after I put the wax on, I usually just more of a buffer, kind of that hard wax, you kind of got to buff it a little bit, and I just want to make sure that there's no excess. Anywhere along here, so just do a quick once over. Just my cotton wheel, plain cotton, nothing on it. And there we have it. Looks pretty nice. This guy will be up for auction on eBay pretty soon. So if you're interested, I'll put a link down below, and you can bid on it. So hopefully it goes to a nice home that appreciates some good old estate and classic shapes. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions over the process, write them in below in the comment section. I'll try to get as much answered as I can. And I appreciate you watching. See you soon.